Harry Truman got a suitcase of cash to basically sanction the founding and of the statehood of Israel in 1948. Well, because they've had so much money through City of London and the connection that basically the Rothschilds, which own a big percentage of Israel, the land itself is owned by the Rothschilds. And so yes, they have worked together to make Israel the king, to take down America, because that is their plan. And we're seeing it right before our eyes.
Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. That was investigative journalist Joachim Hagopian, a new friend to the show. And what a small world. Joachim got his start at globalresearch.ca. That's the stomping ground of author Michelle Chossudevsky, someone who is central in my great awakening, as I'll demonstrate in this interview with Joachim. And of course, we talk about the elephant in the room in this one, which is Rothschilds, Israel, Zionism, and sometimes the fact that I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when the knee benders all tell me to continue to trust the plan right into the ground. Before we start, just a quick word about a terrific sponsor y'all should know more about. Yes, gold and silver got hammered again today, but pretty soon people are going to start talking again about real money. What is real money? It's not rapidly inflating away Federal Reserve notes, it's precious metals in physical form. Silver is more than a precious metal. It's a critical resource used in solar panels, electric vehicles, defense systems, AI infrastructure, and everything that powers our digital world. While demand keeps growing, supply is shrinking at record rates. And by the way, gold, some very, very wealthy people are buying options for December 2026, projecting $20,000 gold prices. Don't be the person who looks back in 10 years and says, I saw it coming, I just didn't act. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and mention SGT report to get your free 10th ounce gold coin for all new qualified accounts. There's something seismic happening on the horizon. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and own the precious metals your future depends on. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very, very much for click and play. I'm so glad you're here, guys, because this interview is one that's long overdue, because my next guest got his start writing for one of my favorite people on one of my favorite websites back in the day. It's still alive and kicking today. It's globalresearch.ca. And Michelle Chossudevsky, if you guys have been following me for any period of time, you know about his book, The Global War on Terror. And we're going to play a clip from a video I produced with my children years and years ago, so you can vet that out as being true, what I just said. That book is important to me. You can find his posts now over at thegovernmentrag.com. His name, Joachim Hagopian. Joachim, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Sean. Good to be here.
Good to have you. I want to ask you about your time at Global Research and working with Michelle Chossudevsky here in just one second. But in the interest of being playful right from the start, you guys, when I hit record, I asked Joachim, how do I pronounce your name? I didn't think it was Joachim. Listen to this. Got a good one for you from Theo Vaughn regarding your name, Joachim.
My friend Josh used to live I think somewhere like kind of like over by East LA. And I've known who you were like a decent amount of my life because most of the world knows your name. But he said that you lived in his area. And I was like, well, what if I opened up a shoe store called These Boots Are Made for Joachim, right? I was like, just to get to meet you. That would be the goal. The only goal of the whole store was to get to meet you. And anyway, that was just like something funny that we thought of one day. But if you saw that store, say if you'd driven by a couple times, like, do you think you ever would have stopped in there?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would have just like cleaned the place out.
You know, I like Theo Vaughn. He's amusing, and he's also telling the truth about the Zionist entity and what troubles him about the current state of Israel. I like that clip. There's another clip, Joachim, where Theo is asked right out of the gates by Joaquin Phoenix, so the name of this podcast is This Past Weekend? Theo says, yeah. He goes, how'd you come up with that? Theo goes, I just started on a Monday. Just think it's funny, brother. How are you, man? How was your time working at Global Research?
It was really good. I mean, I was from 2014 to about 2018, 19, right in there. And then I kind of moved on. I did Veterans Today for a while, SOTT.net. I've bounced around to a number of alt news websites. But yeah, I'm forever grateful to the great Michelle Chossudovsky for giving my start back 12 years ago, over 12 years ago now. So yeah, good place to start, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say too, brother. And let me just show this. We're going to tease this article, then we're going to come back to it. A recent one here from Joachim, Bad Karma Rising for the Epstein Elites. It really all hinges and points right back to Saturn worship, guys. It's the hidden god behind law, money, and power. And I want to play a clip regarding sort of the roots of this thing, at least as it pertains to Frankinism here in just 1 second. But in the interest of just vetting out what I was saying earlier, Joaquin, check this out. This is a video I produced back in like 2011, maybe 2012, featuring my kids. It was an AppMax contest video, and we took third place, which means we won a 10-ounce silver bar. But pay attention to the book in the child's hand. Check this out.
In click with a 5 ounces. Hey folks, Gracie here, and I love AppMax. Every kid does. Look, there's my brother Nick. Who do you love?
I love AppMax. The dollars is a duck.
Oh, and that's my brother Noe. Noe, where have you been putting all that birthday money?
You already know. Precious metals from AppMax. A couple coins here and there. It all adds up.
AppMax is totally rad. But why AppMax, Noe?
AppMax has the best prices, great selection, and no hidden fees. Buying precious metals.
Did you see the book?
Yeah. Yeah, that's my friend, Michelle Chossudovsky, the man that gave me my start as a journalist.
I had to put that in the spot. Those were the days. Back in the days, I'll tell you, you get an ounce of silver for, I think back then, around 15, 16 bucks, Joaquin.
Yeah, it was a lot cheaper. Yeah, your kids are naturals too, by the way.
Well, my oldest, she's a real sweetheart and a straight A student. She definitely gave us the least amount of trouble, I can tell you that. All right, I want to turn attention to Frankism, and then we're going to circle back to your article here. Again, this is the article I just teased, guys. We'll take a look. Bad Karma Rising for Epstein Elites. And I want to start with this clip about Frankism. Jacob Frank, to be specific, and sort of the roots, I think, of a lot of this.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to this, guys.
The people in the Epstein files aren't actually Jewish. They are Frankist. If you don't know what a Frankist is, basically, there was this guy named Jacob Frank in the 18th century who believed that he was the Messiah, and he taught all of the awful things you're reading in the Epstein files. He taught that. All of the rituals, all of the shmanibalism, the Schmex rituals, the PDF file activity, all of that, he believed you needed to do that in order to ascend to heaven, because it's a Kabbalistic religion where essentially in Kabbalah, there's this idea that you have to commit horrible acts. You have to go down in order to go up, essentially. And they're trying to bring about the end times. It's a very complicated structure to the religion of how things work within that religion. So it's hard to explain within like 2 minutes. But essentially, they believe you have to go down in order to go up. So they're trying to bring about the end times. They're trying to ascend into heaven, that type of thing. And all of the things that you are reading within the Epstein files, especially if you look at the photos of Little St. James, you can see aspects of Frankism within it. And the reason why we don't talk about Frankism all that much as a society is, one, it's a very secretive religion, but one of the practices of Frankism is they will infiltrate religions in order to hide what they are doing. Most famously, Jacob Frank actually converted to Catholicism in order to infiltrate the Catholic Church. He was trying to make the Catholic Church Frankist, and that's why the Jews were kicked out of Poland in the 18th and 19th centuries, fun fact. Jacob Frank is the reason for that. So these people, Jacob Frank was Jewish, they came from Judaism, but it is a very cult-like aspect of Judaism that not every Jewish person practices. It's actually, it should be considered two very separate religions, because most Jewish people don't practice Kabbalah. Sigmund Freud is actually a prime example of someone who was most likely a Frankist, fun fact. And also Frankism and Kabbalah teaches transgenderism as well.
You know, let me pause it there. You know who does an even better job describing this entire thing, Joaquin? With footnotes, Candace Owens. But the clip has been scrubbed from X, so I'd have to go back through her shows. I should have clipped it out myself. But how do you think that ties into your article in Saturn worship?
Well, they all go hand in hand. And, it goes back, as you said, way back to ancient times in Babylon and the worship of deities and false deities. And they get engaged in all kinds of sacrifice, blood sacrifice of children, Moloch and Baal. It goes back. And these bastards in power now are still practicing these ancient, very satanic religions. And one of them is Kabbalism. And so, yeah, I mean, and it goes by a lot of names. There's Freemasons, you get up to the 33rd degree and you're one of them, basically. And when it was alluded to that you have to do some kind of horrible thing or participate in some kind of pure evil thing to get ahead and get into the club. Well, just look at Washington, D.C., in order to rise up in power, the system is such where it's run by psychopaths, obviously, and you have to jump through these evil hoops where basically you either get involved in some kind of ritualistic child sex abuse or even blood sacrifice. The hardcore are eating the organs of these children. I mean, that's all for real. And I wrote about the royal family, and they are big, In fact, they're even shapeshifters. I know I'm a little bit woo-woo for a lot of people, but that's true. These people are reptilian, many of them anyway. So yeah, the practice of evil as part of, a satanic kind of religion, that goes back to, ancient times and basically Satan and God and the whole bit, the falling out and the falling angels. They're still here. They're still the descendants of all those, quote, fallen angels are still with us. And they show up as the royal families, the black nobility aristocracy of Europe, the named families that have been going on, although no one knows of them. We know about the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and the royal families, and they were all practicing Satanists, and some of them alive now are continuing. But yeah, it's a tradition, it's a history, and it goes back to ancient times.
I want to play a clip for you, Joaquin. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it's just stuck with me. And since you mentioned the royal family and shapeshifters, I thought this was a fascinating piece of audio. In fact, the whole world did. This was leaked, I would say leaked, but this came out unexpectedly during the funeral procession for Queen Elizabeth, and viewers around the world were creeped out by this ghostly whisper. Listen really close, guys.
Death is irreversible, and the fact that she's trapped.
As you can see, here in London, it is a lovely day, and as the hearse heads out into West London.
Did you guys hear that? I'll play it again. The death is irreversible.
The death is irreversible, and the fact that she's trapped.
As you can see.
Okay. To me, Joaquin, it sounds like the death is irreversible and the fact that she is trapped. That's what it sounds like to me. Have you heard that clip before?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And it reminds me of, I think she had some kind of Jubilees anniversary, maybe 75, 50 years. I don't know which one. But anyway, they were doing a whole pageantry scene in Britain in honor of her being the queen for so long. And it was televised, of course, and there were hundreds, perhaps even thousands of viewers that actually saw the Queen shapeshift on television. That happened. That's a pretty much documented evidence of what they're all about. And you better believe King Charles, he's up to his big ears in all that deep satanic shit.
Yeah, well, we know it's true if for no other reason than his friendship, his multi-decade friendship with Jimmy Savile, right?
When you have two brothers. The older one that's now king, of course, the best buddy of the most notorious, most evil, murdering pedophile in history in Britain, Jimmy Savile, as you say, and then the younger brother, he's involved with Jeffrey Epstein as his best friend, Andrew. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's not by accident, that's for certain.
Well, and you know what? It shouldn't be lost on anybody, and this isn't me being hyperbolic. In Prince Charles at the time, in his own words, our lineage goes straight directly back to Vlad the Impaler, you see. We have a vested interest in the country of Romania because of all the killing and blood drinking that Vlad the Impaler did. We're very proud of our heritage, you see. Can't make it up.
Yeah, he really admitted that. Yep, blood-sucking Vlad. Yep, that's what they are. They're reptilian bloodsuckers.
All right, well, let's start right at the beginning here. Bad karma is piling up for the wicked in this world. Karma has a way of catching up to evil players like Benji Netanyahu, real name Milikowski, Donald J. Trump, what's his real name? Frump? I'm not sure. And their nations.
It's Trump.
The United States and Israel, that are now the most hated countries in the world. Now, that is certainly true for Israel, and the residue wearing off in the United States is directly due to the fact that this government seems to support the crimes of Israel, no matter her crimes. People like Lindsey Graham, of course, worship at the altar of Israel. So do Mike Huckabee, who say, regarding the Greater Israel Project, they could just take it all. Tucker, they could just take it all. Their genocidal wickedness is part of their own self-sabotaged undoing that extends to the Khazarian mafia overlords like the Rothschild bloodline elites that control them through bribery and child sexual blackmail. By the way, Rothschild is Orsini, that's my understanding, going all the way back to the days of Nimrod. After all, as you write, Joachim, as the most infamous pedophile in the world, Jeff Epstein, told Antichrist figure, Palantir founder, mentor of Vice President J.D. Vance, Khazarian Jewish mafia crime lord Peter Thiel, in an email long before Epstein's 2019 disappearance, as you know, I represent the Rothschild family. That is in the emails from Jeffrey Epstein. So let this not be lost on the audience that Donald J. Trump has played his role, along with the FBI and Kash Patel, in covering up the Epstein clients' names. Joaquin? Full stop, period. Does that make Donald J. Trump a Frankenist, or fill in the blanks?
Well, actually, he is a Shabbat Lubavitch, which is a satanic Jewish cult. His son-in-law and daughter are also members of the Shabbat Lubavitch cult. So, it's a Talmudic satanic cult, basically. And Schneerson, who died, I don't know, maybe 2002 or something, maybe like that. But anyway, he died, and he is worshipped as the God, and they're waiting for the Messiah. The Jews always are waiting for the Messiah to come back. Once basically the non-Jews in the world are gone, are dead. Hey, they've been trying to get rid of the Christians for quite some time, and they got their axe to grind against the Muslims. And so, here we are. We're, going. And then, it goes back to 1871, the Confederate general talking to Mazzini of Italy, who's the top Freemason there. And they're saying, yes, there's going to be 3 world wars, and the third one, and of course the first 2 have already come to pass, and he named the players, and he mentioned the third world war involving the Zionists versus Islam, and here we are. We're on the brink of basically all-out World War III. Right now, it's not quite kinetic, where you have all the Western countries and Israel versus the world of Islam, but it's probably going to end up kinetic like that. But right now, it's more of a little bit, different. They call it hybrid war, which is you use other means, and that's exactly how Iran was able to beat the big military power of America in this current war. They hold all the cards in this, and Trump signed a 14-point thing that gave everything to basically Iran. But he was forced because he is looking at the global economy that's going to be impacted by no oil and petroleum products coming in, and basically the supply chain shutdown that's going to make fertilizer impossible for a lot of the farmers to grow the food to feed the planet. It goes on and on. The dominoes just keep falling, where what we're facing now is it's going to really become like a dark age. It's going to take several years to get everything back online as far as oil and the flow of all the necessary things that are sustenance for us to continue surviving. I'm afraid there's going to be famine and mass starvation within probably a few months. And of course, there's many parts of the world, mainly in the third world, where they've struggled with famine and starvation for many, many years, So, but it's just going to spread to even America. I hate to say it.
Well,
the
now
wealthiest country, yes.
Okay, yeah, 39 trillion in debt. Maybe, all right, in terms of resources, we may still be the wealthiest country on earth. But you know what? I kind of call BS on that too. I think there are wealthy countries all over the world, and they've all been exploited by, the city of London's colonialism, along with their willing partners in the UK government and the royals specifically. We're going to circle back to the Epstein elite, Jared Kushner, Ted Cruz, and Peter Thiel in just 1 second with a clip from Stu Peters. But let's just talk a little bit more about your worries, your concerns regarding famine, regarding energy shortages. As we're having this conversation this past Friday, there was a peace deal. There was a memorandum of understanding that I believe was signed in Switzerland that was going to bring peace and an opened Strait of Hormuz. And guess who screwed it up? Guess who sabotaged it? Guess who the fiend is, not the friend, who sabotaged that peace deal? Bibi Netanyahu, by bombing the hell out of Lebanon immediately, thereby sabotaging the peace deal. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're worried about? Because I don't see any end to this, Joaquin, as long as Israel has Bibi Netanyahu in charge. And by the way, if they topple Bibi, they got Ben-Gvir to deal with, and he's even crazier.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate situation. The one that's probably going to come in October when the next election there happens. He's even going to be worse. So, yeah, it's a no-win situation. And the sad thing is, yes, because of the sexual blackmail, yes, Trump has been a pedophile. He ran with Epstein for probably close to 20 years, and they did a lot of bad things together. They even shared the little girls together. And I've written all about that.
Well, wait. You need to vet that out for my audience, because I'm telling you right now, there are probably still Trust the Planners watching this. God bless them. I mean, if you signed up with Prometheus Action and you believe that narrative, there's room for it. I admitted that the other day. There might be room for it to some degree, given the mixing up of the grand chessboard, right? Putting a wrench in the spokes of the Brzezinski global chessboard. I'm all for it, but I don't know that that's exactly what's happening here, guys, because the Rothschild central banks still rule the roost, including our own Federal Reserve in this country, and Jared Kushner is chummy with Nat Rothschild on his damn quote-unquote boat. So your thoughts on what I just said, brother?
Yeah, well, the Rothschilds, they were probably grooming Trump when they had to bail his ass out. He supposedly got this reputation as the great, billionaire, self-made man, all this kind of bullshit. Well, the reality is he's had to file bankruptcy 4 times, and guess who bailed him out repeatedly? The Rothschild. It's on record. I've done a lot of research on this, and Katie Johnson was the victim, basically, that both of them got to, Epstein and Trump. And Trump got to her first, and Epstein was all pissed off, but yeah, I've written about all of this, and it is documented, and there is so much evidence I've written so much on Trump and his affiliations with Epstein, and he's definitely, whether he's doing it or not doesn't matter now, but because he's 80, he's in terrible, terrible shape. He's a 300-pound lard. He's got all kinds of congestive heart failure type of precursors that are all set to go off at any time. Big ankles with the blood not flowing. So yeah, the guy's not going to make it. I've been saying for probably 5 months now that I don't think he's going to make it through 2026. But anyway, back in the day, when he met Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they were introduced by Robert, the mogul, the media mogul and super spy for Israel and Britain. They got those two together for the purpose, basically, of sexual blackmail operation for Mossad, basically. They're assets of Mossad, both Maxwell and Epstein. And they're also Jewish supremacists that, believe that that's how we run the earth. That's how. So anyway, yeah, to make the long story short, Trump's been groomed for a long, long time for the job that he now has. He's honed his skills as the showman, the grifter that he is. And, he had a good talk in the beginning, when he was going to drain the swamp. Remember that? Well, the swamp got to him, that's for sure, because they've always been there. And he was groomed to take over. And he's groomed basically his role to destroy America and destroy the West. That's where we're going, folks.
That's what you believe. Okay, I know some people do believe that, and a lot of people still do not believe that. But I do want to point one thing out. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world only to lose his own soul? I just want you to consider this. And Trump's Atlantic Casino, this is it, February of 2021, an abandoned project, a failed project. And, I pointed out only simply because Trump has arranged for his family to never be audited by the IRS again. Did he arrange the same for you, dear listener? Has he disbanded the IRS? Has he disbanded? Has he ended the Fed? The same Rothschild Fed that Nat Rothschild now controls? So, when this man took $250 million from Adelson's wife, that was casino money. So it kind of adds up, doesn't it? It kind of goes back to the days of the Vegas mafia that I think still controls Vegas to this day, Joaquin. I just call them as I see them. I call the balls and strikes.
And, it reminds me of the Vegas days where the Jewish mob controlled Vegas. They still do, by the way. And this guy is a mafioso himself, Donald Trump. He talks just like one. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to bomb you guys. You guys won't even return to Iran." That's what he just said to Fox News about 2 days ago. Excuse my dog. But yeah, this guy is a bully and a mobster. That's what he is. Shut up. Come on, be quiet. Okay.
Well, let me ask you something then regarding Epstein elite's bad karma. In so many ways, I agree with you to the extent that bad karma would produce a residue, a frequency, a ripple effect that would wake people up in droves. And whether or not that's true with the Epstein elite specifically, and I think it is, but see, we still don't know most of the clients' names. 99.5%, maybe more of the clients' names have been redacted. But in terms of the Epstein elite and Israel, case study Israel specifically, Rothschild's Israel, Balfour Declaration, Rothschild's Israel, Rothschild equals Epstein. Yeah, the bad karma is rippling all over the world. And at least we have to welcome the fact that people are now talking about this. They're talking about everything we're talking about. I mean, you're talking about some of the top comedians in the world, like Jimmy Dore, like Tim Dillon. They're talking about Zionism. I mean, that might be the best example of the bad karma that's rippling around the world, Joaquin.
Well, I think people have finally realized with the genocide going on in Gaza and what's going on now and has been for a while now in Lebanon, people have realized that Israel is not America's friend. They're not our ally. They've always been against America. That's the bottom line. We've had more trouble. I mean, obviously, I'll just go through a couple of points of Israel history. First of all, Israel stole uranium from us back in the late 50s, early 60s to start their nuclear development weapons program. And then they went further than that. They actually started building these nuclear bombs. I think it was around 63 which happens to be the year that John F. Kennedy died. Well, the year prior, John F. Kennedy was talking to their first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, and saying, hey, I know what you're doing over there. You're building a bomb, and that we can't have that. We can't have that. And so obviously you just put two and two together. They had their shooter on the ground in Dallas too. Yes, Israel did. You can talk to, my friend Fetzer about that. But yeah, so they took out JFK along with, a whole bunch of other players that, were threatened by John F. Kennedy, because after all, he was the last president of America that tried to do good for the people. Everybody else is a stooge that's just placed in there, a total puppet that does whatever Israel or the City of London, founders of Israel, want them to do. Every single one, every president since has been one of those puppets, just like Trump, except Trump is the worst of all. So yeah, and then of course 3 or 4 years in 67, they took out, the USS Liberty, the naval ship. They killed 34 on that ship, and 173 were badly injured. And that was Israel knowing they were taking down and wanted to sink on a U.S. Navy ship. So yeah, they're our best friends, all right. And then we have, 911. Well, before 911, guess who was talking about, the golden calf that was going to bleed dry? That was Benjamin Netanyahu. It was like in 1996, he was talking that way. And he also even mentioned that in 99, he mentioned that, yeah, the New York Twin Towers are going to go down because of the threat that the terrorists are causing, So, yeah, they are not our best friend. They never have been. But unfortunately, Harry Truman got a suitcase of cash to basically sanction the founding of the statehood of Israel in 1948. Well, because they've had so much money through City of London and the connection that basically the Rothschilds, which own a big percentage of Israel, the land itself is owned by the Rothschilds. And so, yes, they have worked together to make Israel the king, to take down America, because that is their plan. And we're seeing it right before our eyes.
All right, so let's say the straits stay closed down because there is no escaping this situation unless the United States declares Israel its enemy. Literally, I don't know how this is going to stop unless, well, I guess the best way to do it would be to stop providing the weapons of war to Israel. Stop funding the terror. Stop funding the genocide. Full stop. I'm on board with that. Most Americans are on board with that. Most of the real MAGA base is on board with that. It's the usurpers of MAGA that aren't on board with that. It's the Lindsey Grahams. It's the Ted Cruz's to a large degree. In fact, let me play a clip regarding Ted Cruz and Peter Thiel. This is from Stu Peters. I want your thoughts on this, brother. We won't play the whole 3 minutes, but I think it sets the stage. It gets us right back to what we were talking about with Frankinists.
A massive data breach has exposed the internal operations of Dialogue, a secretive, invitation-only society for more than 200 global political, financial, and technology elites. The leak, encompassing private registration databases and website code, revealed the existence of an exclusive matchmaking application for members. It also uncovered off-the-record retreat agendas focused on geopolitical conflict, defense technology, and the societal disruption of artificial intelligence. Co-founded by billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel in 2006, Dialogue convenes senior U.S. officials, foreign dignitaries, and corporate executives. The exposed registry for its upcoming August 2026 retreat lists 222 individuals, according to Wired. The leaked roster includes high-profile figures such as Elon Musk, Jared Kushner, Scott Bessent, Senator Ted Cruz, and Kaja Kallas. Records also name Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale, and Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two Interactive, the video game company behind GTA 6. End quote. And as you may have imagined, there's even more to it than that, because this organization, Dialogue, is directly linked to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sure you're shocked. As far back as 2012, he was being invited to participate in Dialogue gatherings, which makes perfect sense, actually, because the associated names that have been made public read like a who's who of Jeffrey Epstein's email contact list. And according to one of the emails released by the Department of Justice belonging to Jeffrey Epstein on November 28, 2012, Aaron Hoffman, one of Peter Thiel's Dialogue accomplices, sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein inviting him to Dialogue 2014, which he pitched as a 100% off-the-record gathering of 150 people who were going to change the world. So Peter Thiel and his buddies wanted Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted pedophile, to come to their secret off-the-record meeting so that they could get his opinion on all the ways that they could change the world. Or maybe they just wanted him to come for another reason.
Okay, so why do I play that? Well, because the Rothschilds' agent was Jeffrey Epstein. Full stop, it's in the emails. Now,
he wrote that email about, as you know, I represent the Rothschild. He wrote that to Peter Thiel. They were buds too. Yeah.
Yeah, and just side note, what do you make of Stu Peters? Because he came on the scene very, very quickly out of nowhere, actually in the same small town in Minnesota where my wife grew up. My brother-in-law knows Stu Peters from that little town. He's not well regarded in that small town, but he certainly has the gift for gab, and he's talented at what he does. He's a very good orator, but literally he came out of nowhere. Do you have any comments on Stu Peters? I'm just asking because I don't know, because I guess here's what I bump on. For a short period of time, he had that snake Blake Neff on his writing team. Now that's just come out recently, and Blake Neff is now over at TPUSA, and Blake Neff was unceremoniously let out the door when he was writing for Tucker Carlson because he was harassing some woman online with a nom de plume. So Blake Neff and his ties to Stu Peters, I bumped on. Stu has addressed that recently and come out and said, yes, it's true, but you know what? I didn't know he was this bad guy. What do you make of a guy like Stu Peters just coming on the scene out of nowhere, constantly going after the Jews and Zionism, which I welcome, but I'm just curious because we both run in the same circles.
Yeah. You always have to be kind of suspicious when they come out of nowhere and suddenly, catch on real quick. And it seems that that's a common pattern too. I like a lot of what he does. I have to say that, he's right on a lot of his messaging, to me, I agree with. I haven't really followed him all that much, and I haven't done a lot of background check on him. I know he was a policeman in, I guess, was it St. Paul?
He was a bounty hunter. Yeah, he was not a cop. He was a bounty hunter.
Oh, he wasn't a policeman.
Yeah, I mean, look.
He was a police officer.
No, I don't believe so. He's got some weapons training. He did usurp the governor's mansion for some period of time under Jesse Ventura by befriending Jesse's son. He got in a little bit of trouble for that, I think, pretending to be somebody he wasn't. So a mysterious background, but no, I see what you're saying. I like Stu too. I like the things he's saying, but I'm starting to wonder if it's not just all a honeypot to track and trace everybody who then thinks like Stu Peters and criticizes Jews. Because as you know, they want to make that illegal. And in fact, in Florida, I think they did. Didn't they just make it illegal to criticize Jews in Israel specifically?
Yeah, I think they did, yes. And they have the anti-Semitism law from 2023, to basically, if you criticize Israel, obviously for its genocide against Palestinians, that they call that anti-Semitic. They're yeah, it's ridiculous. Everybody who has a moral compass knows right from wrong, and they know that Israel is the heavy that's causing a lot of trouble on our planet and taking America down with it. And so, yeah, if you tell the truth on the internet, I mean, there are a lot of Europeans now that, obviously with the, and let's face it, the mass migration crisis that's the worst in history, that's all been sponsored by these same, trillionaire type people to destroy the West. I mean, Europe's suffering for it. They're totally fragmented. The population, the culture, everything is being, basically attacked, along with a lot of their women, of course, by Muslims. The whole divide and rule, they're trying to constantly get one group against another so that they don't realize that the players above them, the people that we're talking about, are really the ones that create all these conflicts that divide the population against each other. So they go after each other, like the two-party system, the left versus right, or even the Western Bloc versus the Eastern Bloc. There's always the enemy, so I mean, it's been the old rule. And let's face it, the Rothschild clan that's been around for a few, 3 centuries now, they actually are the ones that have been creating the conflict to begin with and backing both sides in every war for the last, 2.5 centuries. So, it goes deep, it goes very deep.
Yeah. And let me just say, too, I'm not claiming, I'm not even making the allegation. I just like having conversations. I'm not making the allegation that Stu Peters is an operative or, in the employ of some entity. But a lot of people make that claim about Candace Owens, and I think she's extremely lucid and extremely intelligent. And she's a fire-breathing dragon who's hell-bent on trying to actually figure it out, who murdered her friend in cold blood, Charlie Kirk. And all roads lead back to military involvement, folks. I'm telling you, it's just as clear as the nose on anyone's face at this point. And the fact that people, knee benders on X, still try to parrot this idea that Tyler Robinson did this all by himself, it just proves they're knee benders, folks. They are on the payroll of some entity. I would call them modern day Judases. What I'm driving at, though, and I think what you hit on, is the fact that this divide and conquer works so well on humanity that I think to some degree it's the revelation of the method, Joaquin. Like, they'll get it out there in the public zeitgeist that, yes, we traffic in children. Yes, in some cases we butcher, murder, and eat children. What are you going to do about it? Because guess what? That problem will continue even when the names change. Okay, even after Prince Andrew has some repercussion happen to him. Okay, limited hangout. He's just the tip of the iceberg. And the revelation of the method is part of the problem. And to that end, Israel, JFK's assassination. How about Israel on 9/11, the dancing Israelis? How about the Project for a New American Century talking about the need for a new 9/11 before it happened? That was a neocon think tank. How about DARPA being the seed funding, really the real owners of Google, of Facebook? What we're talking about here is a fascistic corporate government entity, which I think at this point can't be unraveled. It just will not be unraveled short of a global economic total calamity that brings everything down. But then rising from the phoenix from the ashes will be these same people because they hold all the gold. We don't even know if all the gold is in Fort Knox at this point. Right. And Trump just recently speculated that maybe it's not because these people like to steal. His words, not mine. How do we extricate ourselves from this, Joaquin?
Well, as you say, I think that the whole thing has to collapse, and it is. They call it the Great Reset. King Charles and Klaus Schwab got together as the architects for the Great Reset. So, yeah, they're planning on basically, let's face it, the economies of Europe and America and Canada, Australia, all the basic Western nations have been planned for the demolition of our civilization. That's what's at stake here. We're going down, and they're going to come back with their Great Reset. We already know where they're going with it. They're married to the technocrats now, and they're going to end up with the CBDCs and social credit scores. The model is China, and so that's where we're headed. So it's going to take basically the 1,000,000 to 1 odds that we have in our favor against the handful that are doing this to our planet. We have to be the resistors that will mobilize from the local level all the way up to the top and take our world back from the evildoers that have been in control for so long. Now, easier said than done, let's face it.
Well, but guess who's providing us the example? The Albanians. Okay, this is from June 20th, just a couple of days ago, folks, and this is in response specifically to Jared Kushner and Iki Ivanka literally bragging about their private island, their multi-hectare private island. I mean, my goodness, folks, when in the United States do we see anything that matches this? 350,000 Albanians taking to the streets day after day after day. I think it provides the example. And by the way, when the IDF shows up and says, hey, this is a secure area, get the hell out of here, Albanians, guess what they do? I mean, they're providing an example to the world. And frankly, it's about time, given everything we've seen in Gaza, given everything we've seen now in Lebanon. People are fed up, my friend. And I guess I'd ask you this. As a West Point graduate, what do you make of people like Hegseth saying, be not afraid, Donald J. Trump has been appointed to usher in Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus? I just find it to be absolutely blasphemous. I find it to be completely blasphemous.
Well, it is. And it's basically the doomsdayer. The end days, we're in the end days. Yeah, he's another Zionist, quote, Christian, although I don't think he really is. But that he professes, that, the Trump is going to be our savior and savior for Israel, But it's a situation where this guy, he doesn't, first of all, he had no respect in the military. I mean, and as far as what he's done with the military, they hate him. I mean, he brought in all the generals and the admirals in his first week on the job. When he changed the Department of Defense to Department of War, and he's like a little cheerleader, and you can see on the faces of the officers, these are the top guys. And, basically West Point is all about making people order followers. And the people that rise up in the system, like in the political system, they have to be tainted. They have to be basically brought into as psychopaths, or at least trained as a psychopath, to follow the orders that are pure evil, that are treasonous. But that's this club, that George Carlin, the great one, alluded to. It's the club that you and I aren't in, but you got to sell your soul to the devil to be a member of it. So that's the problem that we face. But Albania, yes, they are the example now for the rest of us to start basically, kicking ass, basically getting out there and mobilizing as a resisting organization. And it will travel, because I'll tell you, times are going to get real tough. And as they get worse and worse, people are going to get more desperate and more aware that the criminals are getting away with too much, and we have to put a stop to it. It's coming. Even in America, they're going to be rebelling. Yes.
Are you surprised at all? And I think it's a blessing. And it happens amongst the most ungodly because they don't have humility. But that's my opinion. Are you surprised by the hubris of these people? And let me give you a specific example. Mark Zuckerberg parking his $300 million yacht in the bay in Seattle as he lays off 8,000 hardworking Facebook employees. And like 3 weeks later, he laid off another 1,500 people, saying, "Hey, good luck. I know you cared a lot about the company. We appreciate your contributions. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out." Are you surprised by that, replacing so many people with AI, as he's already worth 220 billion? And as everybody knows, money's free after the first billion, folks. You can just comb off 30, 40, 50 million a year in interest off of a billion. So money's free to these people. I mean, the social contract with human beings is now clearly broken, and I'm shocked a little bit by their hubris. Your thoughts?
I can't really say I am shocked, because they've had this agenda to bring in AI, robotics, and replace the human population now for a long, long time. I've been writing about that topic. Basically, there's a human genocide that's already going on now. Palestinians, look how they've gotten away with it. You know, no one's really stopped Israel from killing thousands upon thousands, and the just list keeps growing as far as the people that have been killed, and women and children, and it's spread to Lebanon. You know, so the Greater Israel Project, and so yeah, I'm not surprised by any of this. They do want a huge percentage of the population gone, and those that will be living are not going to be human, because if you take the shot, it's human altering, and you're not any considered to be a human again. So yeah, that's where they're going. They're going to be transhumanists, and the population, unless we fight and fight for our lives, literally, the human population is not going to last, because that's their agenda. Their agenda is to kill off the population of humans, because humans have souls, humans can think, humans can process stuff and yearn for truth, even though we don't get very much of it. And they are turning against the system that they now see as our enemy. Our government is our enemy, basically. That's the reality. And you better believe Trump is on the wrong team. So yeah, we must rise up and resist, or we perish as a species. It's down to that.
Last question for you. My goodness, we could go another hour. We've just scratched the surface here today, but as I've been warning people, stay far away from this one, in my opinion. SPCX, Space Exploration Technologies. That's SpaceX, folks. A $3 trillion valuation at its peak when it hit like 217, 221 a share, something like that. And I warned y'all, I said, there's a reason Warren Buffett is sitting on $400 billion in cash, folks. This one down $20, another 11% today alone as we're having this conversation. Now, where's the bottom? Don't worry, it'll bounce at some point, but is it a dead cat bounce? Because the NASDAQ literally changed their own rules so that insiders could start selling this thing as quickly as 30 days after the IPO. That's extraordinarily unusual, folks. Used to be 6 months or longer. The selling is coming. In fact, it's already here. And you, dear listener, if you're not smart, you will be the exit liquidity for the billionaire class to a large degree. Elon Musk, is he the best of the worst of the billionaires, or is he cut from the same cloth as all these people? Peter Thiel, etc.
He's cut from the same cloth. He knows what to say that will appeal to a lot of people, like what Trump did, in his first term. But yeah, I think the AI bubble's in process now. Data centers, look what the data centers do to the water supply. They tap into the aquifers, they use up all the electricity, the bills go up, the noise pollution. I mean, they're ruining community after community. There's already 3,000 data centers in America. It leads the way in the world. And they're planning to build 1,500 more in process right now. So yeah, it's not for us so that it benefits the people. It's all part of the process of the AI robotics takeover and get rid of the humans. And, it's going to be, because the ones that have been controlling everything, the billion trillionaires, they know that a massive population of resistance is something they can't deal with. In order for them to survive, they know at this point, and that's why they've sped up all these crises coming at us every day because they know we're going to come after them. As people find they can't even afford to eat, can't even afford a roof over their head, feed their family. So yeah, that day where we're all going to be Albanians is coming very soon. Let's face it, the oil reserve is going to end in another week or so. That was the big thing that Trump did with trying to, make a deal there, because he knew that very few days are left where our oil reserves going to be gone, along with the whole world, basically. Coming in July and August, we're going to see some major changes, not for the best. So it's time for the world to wake up and resist and oppose the evil, because, yeah, they are Satanists and they're out to get us. So it's either them or us. So I'd rather choose a life to go on for our generations in the future rather than be extinct as a species, because that is the stakes that we are up against right now.
Yeah, I don't think you're being hyperbolic at all. In fact, I love having guests on like you, because the truth is the truth and it cuts through. And that's what I'll say too, guys, about Candace Owens. I'm telling y'all right now, nobody has the right to criticize Candace Owens if you don't listen to her show at least several times a week. Because in the case of Jacob Frank and Frankinism and the father of psychiatry, Sigmund Freud, she's telling the truth, folks. She cuts to the very brass tacks, including the fact that the Bolsheviks are here. The Bolsheviks are entrenched in our government. And I'm sorry if you don't like that. In fact, folks, just to get it on the public record before we end this call, I want you to hear Candace Owens, how lucid she is. Specifically, it's a 15-minute clip. We'll play a minute or two of it.
More than 60 million Russian Christians were then ruthlessly murdered. It's the genocide that Hollywood, for some reason, has never been interested in creating any films about. Is there some thread between radical Zionism and Russia? And the answer is yes. Of course there is. The entire bloody story of the communist revolutions, the various communist revolutions all across Europe, which sought to destroy and successfully destroyed the Christian empire. That's now, if you fast forward, a Zionist historical story. We can start with the assassination of Tsar Alexander II. It was plotted by a terrorist group in Russia, known in English as the People's Will. That was the name of the terrorist group. And despite the fact, and these, again, are facts, that Jewish people represented only 4% of the population, they were overrepresented in this terrorist cell that was involved in the plotting and the eventual assassination of the Tsar. In 1881, which is when his carriage was passing through St. Petersburg, an assassin stepped forward and threw a bomb at his carriage. And the Tsar was unhurt, but one of his soldiers were, and he stepped out to check on him. And at that moment, a second assassin stepped forward and threw a bomb directly at the Tsar's feet, and he died. An incredible, by the way, background of this, the reason why I got into the story is I was just researching the history of radical feminism in our country, and it brought me to Russia and the Jewish women who were involved in the plotting and the planning of this assassination. Don't take it from me. This is not Russian propaganda. You can just read American articles. An American Jewish woman who offered this article, which I sourced in my book, her name is Deborah Hertz, who was interested in why so many Jewish women in particular were involved in terrorism. The article is entitled Dangerous Politics, Dangerous Liaisons, Love and Terror Among Jewish Women Radicals in Tsarist Russia. And I'm just reading a quotation here, but she writes, luckily, we do possess meticulous numbers on the People's Will, a notorious radical organization from the 1870s and the 1880s. These figures reveal that Jewish women were spectacularly overrepresented in this circle. The People's Will attracted 2,193 activists during the decade of the 80s. Among these 2,000, some radicals were 95 Jewish women, who represented almost a third of the only 348 women that were in the party.
You know, candidly, there are so many incredible clips from Candace. This ain't even the best one, folks, but she just got back from Russia. She really loved her experience there. And I guess what I would leave folks with, especially you Christians who don't know necessarily what Zionism is, and you're prescribed to it because you support Israel no matter her crimes. Well, let me just point out that when Bibi broke the peace deal that was accomplished in some part this past Friday, he did so by bombing the hell out of southern Lebanon and Christians specifically, Joaquin. So let that not be lost on every single Christian listening.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, the Bolsheviks, they got the Tsar in 1917. You know, they were mostly Jews as well. So.
Yeah, and then the Bolshevik Revolution ensued, killing tens of millions of Christians over subsequent decades. So that's the concern, guys. And Candace has famously said now several times, the Bolsheviks are here. All right? That's the sad fact. Joaquin, we could easily go another hour, but I guess in the interest of time, we'll have to schedule that for another day. How do people find your work?
Well, you can find all my articles on thegovernmentrag.com. Also, a lot of it's on stateofthenation.info. And then you can get all 5 book chapters, all 50-something, for free on pedoempire.org. And boy, I exhaust the topic of pedophilia as a scourge on this earth, carried out by the top people that we've talked about this hour.
Very, very good. All right. Our guest has been Joachim Hagopian. All right. Thank you. It's great to meet you today, brother.
All right. Great talking to you, Sean.
Yeah, you too. Guys, if you're still with us, I appreciate it very, very much. I will leave you with this. TPUSA, Erica Kirk, Tyler Boyer, Blake Neff, they're all up to their eyeballs in some massive corruption, folks. Tyler Robinson most certainly did not act alone. And like it or not, most should not like this. The Trump administration and Trump's FBI is covering up what happened to Charlie Kirk specifically. They're also covering up what happened at Butler, Pennsylvania with that, what I thought was a turkey shoot. I was calling it Dealey Plaza 2.0. That appears not to be what happened because Trump won't let anybody get to the bottom of what actually happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Additionally, the Epstein clients, well, they continue to walk free, as does Tony Fauci. You guys can do the math. I just call the balls and strikes. I'll remind you guys every single day for free. Check us out to get the real news 24/7 at sgtreport.com. And until next time, may God the Creator continue to bless you and yours, friends. Bye-bye.
Price, of course, measured in dollar terms, which, as I said, is totally meaningless, is going to continue to accelerate. And again, don't look at it that way. Look at it what you are about to lose in your paper wealth if you continue to hold the paper assets that you made so much money. Now, when you have a chance, and gold is still only $4,500, very, very cheap, and silver at $75 is also massively cheap.